This is episode 16 of Entrepreneurs for a Change. If you like this podcast, please subscribe to our mailing list at entrepreneursforchange.com. Are you ready to be the change? If so, you've come to the right place. You are about to join a movement of entrepreneurs who are empowering people, saving the planet, and turning their passion into profits while creating the lifestyle of their dreams. If you don't believe us, check out our website at entrepreneursforchange.com, a place where you can be inspired, mentored, and supported by a tribe of change-making entrepreneurs just like you. Hello, freedom-loving change-makers. This is Lorna Lee, host of the Entrepreneurs for Change podcast, where we highlight the success stories of entrepreneurs who are changing the world through business and designing lifestyles of freedom and adventure. I've met all kinds of cool, inspiring, and super smart entrepreneurs as a digital nomad these past 16 months. One internet entrepreneur whose footsteps I'm inspired to follow is Anton Kraly. Anton is a 29-year-old guy from New York who's been making a full-time income online for the past 8 years while being 100% location independent. He got started after purchasing an offline business in 2006, which he quickly transformed into an e-commerce company. He's been creating profitable online businesses ever since. Another colleague from the Dynamite Circle community, Johnny FD, the host of the Travel Like a Boss podcast, followed Anton's online course about how to start a dropshipping business and went from total noob to $80,000 in sales within his first 4 months. Anton's inspired numerous members of Chiang Mai's co-working space, PunSpace, to follow his dropship lifestyle path to abundance, freedom, and adventure. In this highly detailed interview, Anton shares with us how to create an e-commerce store that dropships high-end products on autopilot. What kinds of products are best for a dropshipping business and which ones you should avoid. The number one deadly time, money, and energy-wasting mistake people make when starting a dropshipping business. How to do market research and find the right suppliers. How to compete against other e-tailers selling the same products if you are just starting off. Low-cost traffic sources you can tap into to increase product sales. And much, much more. Links to tools and resources covered in the interview can be found in our show notes at entrepreneursforchange.com/16. Now, before diving into the interview, I want to encourage you to rate, review, and download Entrepreneurs for a Change on iTunes. This really helps us reach more people with inspiring stories of entrepreneurs who are changing the world. Also, if these stories inspire you to start a world-changing business of your own, head over to our website at entrepreneursforchange.com and download the Business Changemakers Toolkit to get a jumpstart today. Now on to the show. Anton, I'm so excited to hear all about your dropship lifestyle, especially getting a glimpse of it in Chiang Mai, Thailand, where we met at PunSpace. So let's kick it off. That was great. Yeah, cool. So let's kick it off by sharing with our audience who you are, what your company does, and how you got to where you are right now.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so my name is Anton Kraly. I mainly own dropshipping businesses now. I've been in e-commerce since 2007. That's when I first got involved. I actually started by owning an offline business that I transitioned to online once I found out about e-commerce. And actually, like a lot of people that are out in PunSpace in Southeast Asia got started, I read The 4-Hour Workweek when that book first came out. And it kind of introduced me. Yeah, everyone did. It's so funny. You hear the same story over and over. But it was amazing because it kind of simplified everything, and it just introduced me to e-commerce and how you could start with really not that much money. I'd always thought back then that, if you wanted your own website, it was like hundreds of thousands of dollars to have someone build it. I didn't know it was the kind of thing you could just, kind of do yourself. So that kind of got me started. I built my first website, did well, and I was selling less expensive products back then, but I decided, okay, if I could sell cheap products, maybe I could sell expensive products. And I just kind of kept moving up the scale in terms of pricing since then. And I've been doing that, since I graduated from college back in 2006.
So were you always drop shipping, or did you actually warehouse hard goods?
No. So when I said I started with an offline business, I actually owned a delivery route for a bakery in Brooklyn in New York. I'm from New York. So that was my first business. I bought it right after college, and my plan was to build it up, sell it, and then invest my cash into another offline business and kind of just keep, kind of doing that, rolling money into bigger and bigger businesses until one day, hopefully I could sell them and retire at, 45 years old, retire young. That was my plan. But I owned this first business, this delivery route for a bakery. I read The 4-Hour Workweek, and I thought, okay, e-commerce, what can I sell online? Well, I already have wholesale pricing. I have access to, a supplier. Let me try to sell these products. So my first e-commerce venture was actually setting up a website which was targeted as a New York bakery shop for people that had moved out of New York or that wanted fresh New York bakery products. So I built it on Yahoo Stores, which is what Tim Ferriss recommended in the book. And the website looked terrible, but it worked. I started getting traffic with Google AdWords right away. I started making sales, and I actually started within a very short amount of time. I was making more money from my website than I was from driving around to all, grocery stores delivering these products for my actual business that I paid a lot of money for. I started making more money with the business that took me a couple hours a day to manage. So I immediately saw the potential with e-commerce, and I sold that business in the transition period. So I'm making money now, right? I have my route. I'm selling the products online. It's going well, but not expensive. They're bakery products. So I was selling between like $10 and $20, which, it's okay. But I thought if I could do this, let me, sell more expensive items. So I started researching different niches where items were around $1,000. I put up a website, same process, Yahoo Store, used AdWords, and I started selling them. So right away, I sold my other business and I stuck with these higher price niches, and I was not drop shipping even then. This is still back in 2007. I didn't even know what dropshipping was. So I actually went on Alibaba, which, is a popular global sourcing website. For anyone interested in it, there are a lot of scams, so you have to be careful. But that's how I found my first supplier in China. And I actually began importing items in bulk back then. So yeah, that's how I started. And what happened, the transition from importing to dropshipping. So first it was, my route, e-commerce, then it was importing. And then once that new site was up, actually suppliers in that niche started finding me, by Googling my main niche keywords, and they started contacting me and saying, we see you sell these products. We have similar ones. Do you want to sell our products? We have them in stock in the United States in different warehouses. And, here's your wholesale price list. If you could sell them whatever you want and you pay us wholesale, we'll ship them to your customer. And that's how I found out about dropshipping. I didn't even know what it was. And I was in e-commerce for a year and a half, 2 years. And I was introduced to this business model through people that were dropship suppliers that did this. So that's how I got started. I said, yeah, this sounds good. All I have to do is upload products and get the traffic. And if I get sales, I make X amount of dollars per sale, whatever my markup was. So I started selling for these dropship suppliers, and immediately my sales just went up in a big way. Almost doubled the first year I started dropshipping. They doubled from that the next year, and they went up a huge amount of money the year after. So by that point, I just completely stopped importing. I thought, why put up capital? Why pay high insurance costs? Because I'm liable for everything when I'm importing. So I completely switched to the dropship business model. And this must have been, I'd say by late 2009, I had completely stopped importing. And since then, it's just been dropship.
So how many dropship stores do you currently have in your portfolio?
I have about 10 right now, but I've started dozens. What I do is I usually build to sell. So I'll build them up for about a year or so of profitability, a good 12-month, trailing net profit, and then I'll flip them. So I built dozens of them. Right now I have around 10.
Okay, and so how long have you been location independent? Because I recall when we met at PunSpace, you were sharing with me your desire to go to South America, and I see that you're there. So excited to hear about all of this. But let's start with, how long you've been on the road.
Well, I've been location independent technically since I sold my original delivery route for that bakery. Since then, when I was even importing, I had my products from China shipped to California because it's less expensive, because obviously China's closer when you ship via ocean freight. And also it's a shorter delivery time. If you ship via ocean freight from China to New York, it takes about 4 weeks, and China to California is about 2 weeks. So I had shorter lead times and it was cheaper. So I shipped there, and I used fulfillment centers. And in California, there's tons of them because so many people do this. So the way that works is they accept your container deliveries, they store your items, they send you a list to make sure what you ordered actually came in, and then when you get orders, they ship to your customers. So it's kind of like drop shipping. Obviously, it costs a lot more. You're putting up a lot more cash, but that's how I was doing it. So even when I was in New York, I was location independent because I wasn't, managing my inventory. I was working from my computer and my home office. But back then, I wasn't traveling, definitely not abroad as much. What I've always done since back then is use Rewards credit card. So I have a Southwest Rewards credit card from Chase, which is my main one. And, Southwest Airlines flies everywhere in the States. So, I've been to every major city, and I traveled around America a lot trying to find one city that I really liked that I wanted to to kind of settle down in. I love New York, but the winters got old for me by the time I was like 21. So I did a lot of traveling. Yeah, but I didn't find, everywhere in the States, I think every major city, they have their own little differences, but it's kind of very similar. So my first major abroad trip for an extended amount of time was actually when I met you in Asia. That was about maybe 8 months into it. And when I first arrived there, I showed up and I thought maybe I'll do like 3 weeks, maybe a couple months, and see how I like this place. I ended up staying for 9 months. So
in Chiang Mai.
No. I was all over. I did most of my time in Chiang Mai, but the first 2 months, I just traveled all around Thailand, like a week at a time. I spent 1 month in Cambodia. I spent 1 month in Vietnam. I spent a few weeks in Bali. So I was mainly based in Chiang Mai, but I did a lot of traveling while I was there.
You have some friends who are in Bali right now, and as much as I would love to be based in Ubud, the internet in Bali just sucks.
Terrible.
It's terrible. I mean, even PunSpace is, it's okay. When there's a lot of people here in this co-working space, it just really drags, and it's kind of crowded. But there are cool events that happen here, and there's free beer tonight.
Yeah, nice. I'm missing out, I know.
So tell me about Buenos Aires, because I've always wanted to go. It's been on my radar, but when I was in Brazil for 6 months this past year, I really thought about going to Argentina, and I just kept hearing weird things about it, like, some kind of issues around the Argentine government wanting to preserve their, foreign cash reserves. So there's all kinds of restrictions in terms of, people being able to take out US dollars within Argentina. I think even Argentines who are traveling in the United States having limits being able to take out US dollars from their, ATM. So, tell me about Buenos Aires. Like, how is it? Is there like a edgy, Latin American crime thing happening? Are people, stressed out and depressed about the economy? Or is it pretty easy to live in? Do you feel safe? Do you feel like you're thriving? What's it like?
Yeah, I've been here for about 3 weeks now, and I have to say I feel totally safe. I'd say yes, it's more edgy than like a place like Thailand, but I never feel threatened. But at the same time, kind of tell something is a little bit, I don't know, maybe on the dark side compared to like Southeast Asia. Because let's say like PunSpace, we are right now, right? You could show up 24 hours a day and just use your thumb to scan in, and you could have complete access. And I'm working out of a co-working space here now, which is one of the major ones, and there's so many of them, which is great. But I'm working out of one that's only open for, I think it's like 10 hours a day. And when they close, they put like huge metal gates down over everything. So every storefront is like at night when things close, they're closed. Like, it's
they're locked
it's totally
down,
different.
Bolted.
Right. And like I went out at night, like went out to the bars and stuff, whatever, went out to dinner and walked home late at night. And I always feel safe. But at the same time, when you see everyone doing this kind of stuff, like shutting things down and bolting it up, there is that kind of side that maybe I'm not seeing. So I live in Palermo right now, which is one of like the main expat areas, and it's big for like shopping and restaurants and stuff. So I'm sure I'm in one of the, safer locations. And I went on day trips and I've explored all around. But during the day, you don't see the bad side. But where I am now, it's 100% safe. Regarding the money thing, like you said, it's really ridiculous. It's good that things are cheap, because when you go to an ATM and you want to take out money, you can't take out US dollars, so you have to take out the Argentinian pesos, but they limit you to taking out 1,000 a day, which is equal to about 150 US dollars.
Oh, dude.
So it's just like, it's like ridiculous, like it's so low. So it's a good thing. The place I'm living in now, I got an Airbnb, so I didn't have to pay cash. I used my debit card on the website, but like if I had to take out a big amount of cash, it would take me like, weeks.
I know. So, you have to like go every day. I was running into that in Brazil, where I had to like visit the ATM, days in advance, just so I could hit it up enough times to get
exactly
like the amount of money I needed to make a major payment.
Yeah. So that's what I do find that annoying. Like, and I don't know, like I haven't really looked into, why. It sounds like you know more about, why they're doing that. But yeah, that's one thing that's kind of frustrating. And then you always hear from the other expats that I'm meeting, there's like, I'm going to get it wrong, but there's like the blue, I think they call it like blue label and black label markets, or blue market and black market. And it's how you get money. So there are people that you could actually, and they're technically like they're not businesses, they're people that you could wire money to, and then they'll give you pesos at like some kind of crazy exchange rate that's much better than you get at an ATM. Now, I've never done this. It seems kind of shady, but I know a lot of people that do it, weekly, and it's a way for them to get a much better exchange rate on their money. If I was here long term, maybe I'd consider it, but I don't know why the ATMs, I think it's some kind of government thing, but the exchange rate's not great at all.
Mm-hmm. So What is the cost of living there? I mean, what does it cost to live a good life in Buenos Aires, where, you're living in kind of like a nice place? Like, for example, in Chiang Mai, I stay at a serviced apartment, which is kind of considered on the luxury end, and my rent is about $600 a month for a one bedroom. Yeah. It's spanking clean. Everything's new. It works. The mattress is like comfortable. It's just lovely. It gets cleaned once a week. Yeah, so I'm living a really great lifestyle here for about $1,000, $1,200 a month. That includes like eating out for every meal, massages, fun trips. So, what does it take to live a good life where you're not like, limiting yourself as to what you can do or how often you can eat out or, whether you can travel in Buenos Aires?
Yeah, that's what I really miss about Asia, just the fact that everything costs nothing and you get quality. It's not like you said, you're paying, around $600 a month and you're living in a really nice place. Here, from what I've seen, like on different realtor signs, you can get some good deals, maybe around like $700-800 US a month. Since I didn't know where I wanted to be, I booked 1 month through an Airbnb rental. So I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment now. It's in a great part of town. It has a kitchen with everything you would need. And I don't know, it's a nice place, but I'm paying $1,200 US for 1 month at a time. So, obviously it's more than Asia. I paid actually less in Chiang Mai. I was paying $400 a month, and the place I was living in was, in my opinion, nicer than this. There was a gym, there were 2 pools, one on the roof on the 15th floor. There was a restaurant with, room service.
Where were you staying?
I was in Hillside Condo 4, right on Hoi Kao.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, so I actually rented it from a guy who used to work at PunSpace, but now he has a home office he works out of. He owns a few properties throughout Chiang Mai. But yeah, it's Hillside Condo 4. The thing there, the building was built in like the 80s. So every condo, they're privately owned. So you just have to find one that's been renovated. And some of them are so nice inside, the ones that have been redone, and his is, and it's awesome. So yeah, that was a good place. Other costs here, like meals. Well, I found when you go out to eat, it's on par with like the States. There's no really good deals when you're going to restaurants and whatnot. It's not, you don't save money by going out to eat. As far as grocery stores go, I don't understand the difference there, because going out to eat, right, comparable to the States, grocery shopping, maybe like a quarter of the price in the States. So I guess you pay for service. I don't know. But yeah, going to the grocery store here it's so cheap. You can, do like a week's worth of grocery shopping for, I don't know, $30. So that's really good. Other expenses, one thing that I don't like is I was looking to plane tickets, right? Because there's so many great places to go and see around South America. And every flight here, somewhere within South America, it seems like it's $500 plus, like to go anywhere, to take a 3-hour plane ride. There are some better deals if you book long in advance, but I'm used to now, 9 months in Southeast Asia, where I'd go on, Air Asia the day before and pay, I don't know, $150 to fly to wherever, Vietnam, or $200 to fly to Bali, which is much further than these trips here. So travel is definitely more expensive when you want to travel around South America. That's a big thing I've noticed. So how much can you get by in a month? I think if you stayed long term and, found a place that you signed a long-term deal for, you'd pay a lot less than I'm paying. And if you wanted to go out to eat, a few nights a week, and the co-working space I work at is like $250 US a month, I think. So maybe around $2,000 you could spend. You can get by with not too much money at all. It's definitely cheaper than New York or in the States. I would say $2,000 to live a good lifestyle.
Okay, that's really good to know. So what is your day-to-day like? What's your typical day?
Well, I've been working a lot. I set like a pretty big goal for January for myself for one of my businesses. So I've been going to the co-working space at 9 a.m. when they open every day, and I usually stay there till around 6. What's good about that is like the way I met most people when I was over in Thailand was through, co-working spaces. It's a great way to connect with other entrepreneurs. So that's what I do here. I basically get in there usually around 9 a.m. I talk to the people that I've met already, see what they're up to, tell them what I'm up to, and then go out to lunch with a group of people there. And then at night, everyone always goes to dinner somewhere, and there's so many good restaurants. It's hard to compare because there's so many good restaurants in Chiang Mai too, and in Thailand as well. I love the food there also. Yeah, I go out to dinner with a group of people. And then on the weekends, that's when I've kind of been exploring out a little bit, taking the subway around. The public transportation is great here. The buses are awesome. The subway is really good. And no one has motorbikes here, I guess, because, they have an actual winter. So it's not like you can, go to, in Thailand, you walk down the street and just rent one for a month for $80. So I just use public transportation to get around, and I'm finding it easy. It's just as easy as in Manhattan. So Yeah, my normal day is like a normal life, I guess. It consists of work and networking. And on the weekends, I've been just going around and seeing like all the architecture here, which is just amazing. And like there's some really, really cool stuff. So that's what I do on the weekends. And yeah, trying to live a normal life. I'm not constantly going out all day and exploring because I'm still running a few businesses. But yeah, it's good. I like it here.
So work-wise, then, what is your typical day-to-day schedule? Do you spend, let's say, most of your day trying to drive traffic? How do you drum up business? I mean, rumor has it that you've started a drop-shipping craze in the PunSpace community. So, okay, so I can imagine you can drum up a lot of business by inspiring people in the co-working spaces where you are to, get into the drop-shipping game. But, in terms of are you building new stores? Are you doing pay-per-click advertising? What do you do?
Yeah, well, with stuff like that, with my e-commerce program, that one has pretty much been automated for a while now. What's good about that is it's been up for 15 months now. So people that had signed up in the beginning when I first launched it, who started doing well, now they also promote it as affiliates and they send traffic to me. So I don't do anything with that one. I have a forum, so I go on my forum once a day and probably spend 20 minutes or 30 minutes answering questions that no one else can answer. Yeah, that business I'm not really working on. What I'm doing now is I have a few e-commerce stores that I'm still in the process of building. The rest are pretty much automated. So my day is wake up, go to the office, go on my forum, respond to any post that people can't answer, check my emails. I usually answer emails maybe every 30 minutes. So about an hour of managing stuff from the previous day that I hadn't attended to since the last morning, because I do this only once a day. And from there, what I'm really trying to build out is a website I have, which is a supplier directory, not just drop shippers, but it's drop shippers, wholesalers, manufacturers, importers. And I've been working on this thing for a year. This is what I really want to, take my entire business forward. But it's so difficult because I'm working with millions and millions of cells of data, and I've tried to outsource it so many times, and every time something's wrong. So I'm stuck at this point feeling like I'm the only one that can get this to the point that I'd feel comfortable charging, money for it and really having my name on it. So I've personally been going through all this data and just trying to really perfect my CSV before I upload it to my site and really launch it. So that's what I'm working on now. Basically, tedious work that I would tell people to outsource, but I know from experience now that this just isn't happening. It's something that needs my personalized attention. So that's what I've been working on, basically analyzing data for hours a day. Doesn't sound fun, but got to do it sometimes,
Yeah, I know someone's got to do it. I mean, seriously, exactly. Outsourcing, that's the thing. There's some things that you really can't outsource. I mean, I've been outsourcing for a long time. At the end of the day, it's just no one seems to be able to do the job as well as I can or as fast as I can.
And that's exactly what it is. And even with some things are so easy to outsource. Let's say you have one website designed and you want someone to make a new website for you that looks similar to your old one. Okay, fine. Here, go do that. I'll check on you in a week and, it'll be done. That I can outsource. Things like customer service and order processing. I could set up, standard procedures and I say, okay, here, do this. And then someone could do it for me. And I could just check up, make sure they're following the procedures and make sure that customers are still happy. So there are some things that I find are just very easy to outsource. But this is I'm trying to actually rewrite some content. I'm trying to make it very user friendly. And like you said, some people no one's going to care about your business as much as you do. So if it's not some kind of mundane copy and paste task, I really feel like I have to do it myself. So I have a couple difficult months in front of me, lots of staring at the computer screen, but I think it'll all be worth it. That's part of being an entrepreneur. You can't just work a couple hours a day every day. Sometimes you got to put the work in. So that's what I'm in that phase now. I'm in the hustle phase.
Yeah. So is your online course what's generating the most revenue for you, or is it one of your dropshipping e-commerce sites?
Yeah, my e-commerce stores definitely make up the bulk of my revenue. The course, it's done better than I ever thought it would, but my main moneymaker is my e-commerce stores. With the course, it's funny because, like I said, it surpassed my expectations so far. I was actually, the way it came about, I was living in North Carolina, not this past November, the November before this. And it got cold down there, so I had nothing to do. I was bored, and I started posting on forums, just public forums that about internet marketing and about e-commerce. And I was answering people's questions about drop shipping, even about importing, just all about creating your store, getting traffic, just all kinds of questions. And people really liked what I had to say because they knew I knew what I was talking about. And I said, okay, let me make a blog about this. So back then I had started a blog that was all text, and I just kind of wrote up tutorials like, this is how I choose niches. This is how I build a website. This is how I find suppliers in my niche. This is how I get traffic. This is how I automate certain tasks. And like I said, it was all text, some images, and it started getting a lot of traffic. And then people kept asking questions about it. So I thought, maybe I'll just record videos, PowerPoint presentations with me talking, explaining everything more in detail so I don't get the same questions over and over and over. So I spent about a week probably this membership site, and I put it up and see what happens. And it blew up from day one. I got great feedback, and it's been growing ever since. So this was kind of like, I'd say like an accidental or surprise success. And it's definitely led to a huge extra income stream for me. But yeah, it was never like my goal to have this as my main business, but it's turned out to make me a pretty good amount of money. And the main thing that I like about it is networking. I've actually JV'd with a few people from it, and it's cool because like some people I'm even friends with have went through it and found success. And I don't know, it just makes me happy to know that like it can actually affect people. And the way I think about it, like I told you, I read the 4-Hour Work Week, right? And if I hadn't read that, I would have kept building offline businesses, and my whole life would be like probably stuck in New York somewhere, working 80 hours a week so I could try to retire young. But Tim Ferriss wrote a book. He shared the information. I read it. I started, and now my life's changed completely. I'm in Buenos Aires right now doing whatever I want pretty much. I don't have to go to the office if I don't want to. And that was thanks to him sharing information. So now I'm sharing information, and it's actually helping other people to kind of do the same thing as me. So yeah, it's awesome.
It's interesting. I met Tim Ferriss at South by Southwest a few years ago, and I nabbed him as like, okay, Tim, spill the beans here. How long did it take you to get to the 4-hour work week? And he confessed to me that it took him 4 years of working 80 to 100-hour weeks.
Oh, yeah.
So that he got to the place where his business was kind of like more automated. He was working only 4 hours a week. And he even attributed to the fact that it took him 4 years rather than 2 years because he had a relationship. So, so tell me, help me understand, like, starting a drop shipping business. Can you share with us how long it takes to get a viable drop shipping site off the ground? And at what point, and what do you need to do to get it on autopilot?
Yeah, obviously it's different for everyone. If you have no experience, it's going to take you a lot longer. I've done it for so long now that, let's say I wanted to build a new drop shipping site, I could get to the point from having my niche idea to building my website to getting approved with suppliers to getting traffic to getting sales. Personally, I'd give myself, like if I wanted to really push it, I would say 3 weeks, I could be making, my first sale from having the idea. If you don't know what you're doing at all and everything's totally new to you, who knows? Like it could be 3 weeks if you're a quick learner, or if are like most people and delay a lot of things and keep putting it off because you're scared to call suppliers or, worried about building your website, then maybe, I don't know, a couple months, few months. Yeah. And then from there to get to the point of automating, I never, even now when I build new websites, I don't want anything automated in the beginning. To give you an example of things I automate, like customer service, I use a call center and they answer, all my phone calls that come in, and they can either answer them themselves, which they have basically the biggest FAQ list ever at this point, or they can email me a question if they don't know the answer, if they need help with it. That I would never outsource when I first launched a site. The reason being is because I don't know the answers to the questions myself yet. I need to get comfortable with these suppliers. I need to learn this niche, and I want to know the answers. So if I'm paying a call center to answer questions so that they actually have answers, so they have the best answers. So I wouldn't start automating anything until maybe a few months in, depending on, how big the niche is, how many suppliers you have. And the other thing that you could automate that I do is order processing. So, you have an e-commerce site, someone comes on, adds to the cart, they check out. Normally this order is just emailed to you and stored in the back end of whatever CMS you're using. I use Shopify. And what you can do is use certain apps. The one I use is called Ecom Hub, and you integrate it with all of your suppliers. So let's say I have 10 suppliers on my website, call them like vendor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, up to 10. I can assign each product to what vendor it's from. And then if I use Ecom Hub, when someone places an order for vendor 3, that order, the confirmation will come to me, but it will also go to my supplier. So obviously it has the, the item number, the SKU, and where it's shipping to. So that automates the flow.
Okay, so Ecom Hub, is it fairly easy for suppliers to use? So even if you work with a supplier that's not really tech savvy, you can just get them to sign up and it's not really a problem at all? Because that was one of the biggest questions I had around drop shipping. Like, what if you're trying to work with a supplier and they don't really get how to, automate the order processing delivery system, and so, then you get sucked into like a custom web development project trying to integrate your site with their site.
Yeah, so here's the thing with that. Like, not every supplier is going to want to have it automated, and to me, that's not the worst thing in the world. I only sell items that I make a really good profit margin on. Part of the reason is because, there is certain things that have to be done with each order, like let's say it's not going to be automated, right? So here's what happens then. The customer places the order on your website, you get that order confirmation email, and then someone either has to go onto the supplier's dealer portal and place the order on their website, or they have to email that order as a purchase order to the supplier. So this is very easy to automate as well. I personally use one person that does all of this for me. So all of my suppliers that don't want to have things automated, let's say they want supplier ABC, let's say they say Anton's business, when you place, we'll approve you for an account, but when you place an order for us, we want you to email us with a subject that says Anton's business, PO for purchase order, whatever the purchase order number is that you make up that's from your business. So, okay, that's fine. Like, I'm not going to not work with the supplier if they're not willing to, integrate with some kind of automated system. So what you do then is, if you're first starting, I would just do it myself then. You do it yourself. You get an order and you send the purchase order to the supplier. They ship the item, and it's still, a few minute process. It's nothing major. And then what you eventually do is hire someone that's going to do it for you. They're going to know which suppliers need to get emails, and they're going to send these emails for you. So like I said, it's nothing difficult to even do it yourself. It'll take you, if you do it once a day, a couple minutes per order. So that's what I would say. It's nothing to not start a business over. And I wouldn't try to force any suppliers to work with, an automated system if they're not willing to. There's a million ways to do it, differently. But it's the easiest, and a lot of suppliers are willing to get those kind of automated POs. Okay,
so going back to the nitty-gritty of starting a dropshipping business, help us understand what kinds of products can be dropshipped. Can you start a dropshipping business around, supplements, furniture, clothing? Are there any types of products out there that can be dropshipped that are eco-friendly or, ethical and fair trade? What do you know about the dropshipping sector?
Yeah, from my experience, pretty much anything can be drop shipped. I'll say the biggest mistake people make is, let's say you wanted to drop ship eco-friendly products, like you said. What most people would think to do is, go on Google and search for eco-friendly drop shippers or something like that. And whenever you search for your niche plus drop shippers, you're going to get the worst results possible. These companies are all usually middlemen suppliers, meaning they're not, the brands, they're not the manufacturers, and they're not going to leave you with any room for profit margins. So I always tell people, if you want to drop ship, never search for your niche plus drop shippers plus drop shipping or anything like that. It's the worst way to find suppliers. The way that I test my niche ideas is I pretend I'm a buyer, and let's say I wanted to buy eco-friendly products. This is probably the most difficult part, the most time-consuming part, is really doing all this market research. But what I would do is go on Google and type in eco-friendly products. And then I would go to as many different websites as I could, and I would look on their About Us pages to see if they have, a physical store or a warehouse. Now, hopefully they're online only. If they're online only, then I'm going to assume that, and one more thing, and if they sell for multiple brands, are online only, then I'm going to assume that their brands are dropship suppliers. So the reason I assume that is because they don't have, an offline presence. So chances are they're online only. Chances are they're not storing their inventory. What I do at this point is then look for the brands on their website. So let's say, stick with this eco-friendly thing. I Google eco-friendly products. I find the website. They don't say anything about having a store. They don't say anything about having a warehouse. I look for a page on their website that says brands or manufacturers or something similar. And I find all these names for the companies they sell for. And then I Google those company names. And there's a really good chance that if I contact those companies, they'll work with me as a dropship supplier. None of these companies will probably advertise themselves as dropshippers. They probably won't say anything about dropshipping anywhere on their websites, but there's a good chance if I contact them, tell them I own a store in the niche, tell them about what I'm planning on doing with it, how I'm going to get traffic, that they'll work with me and let me sell their products on a dropship basis. So that's kind of how to dropship profitably and how to find niches that are dropship friendly. You just have to find those future competitors who are online only and then find what brands they sell for.
Okay, what's the likelihood of getting a supplier or manufacturer who has never worked with a dropship company or, purely, virtual, e-commerce retailer to actually agree to establish a dropshipping relationship with you?
Yeah, I've done it before that way. Usually they are familiar with it, but they don't even I don't even say drop shipping. Like I call my program like drop shipping because people know what drop shipping is. But when I contact these suppliers, what I say is I'm an internet retailer. Do you work with internet retailers? And then I'll work out like pricing, I don't try to negotiate my pricing. I usually have wholesale pricing, but I work at I'll pay you on a prepay basis. I'll get an order and then I'll pay you and you ship it to my customer. So it's not really it's never been difficult, honestly. Some companies don't want to work with online only retailers, but it's very rare to come across that. It's usually older companies that have been around forever that aren't willing to transition to online. And like I said, it's very rare that you're going to find that. If you present yourself the right way, tell them that you're an internet retailer, that, you have a website in their niche and you're really planning on doing a huge launch, getting a lot of traffic to it and becoming the authority in that niche, it's not likely that they're going to say no and not give you a wholesale price list.
Well, so what comes first, the website or the dropship store?
The website. Yeah, okay. The website.
So let's say you've never dropshipped before and you're trying to find a dropshipping supplier. So you have to, what do you recommend? Do you recommend building an e-commerce store first to let them know that you're serious?
Yeah,
and then
definitely.
Okay, but then what products do you list if you don't have any suppliers?
Demo products. So you don't want just one supplier. If you're going to put up a website, you don't want one dropship supplier. I think that would be a really, a bad move because you're limiting yourself in a big way. So I usually want at least 20 possible suppliers in any niche before I build a website. I have some niches that I have 500 plus suppliers in. So it just shows you how many, how wide of a spectrum there is. But what you do is you build your e-commerce store just as it'll look once it's actually live. Yeah. So you build your store and you want to upload demo products. And what these demo products are basically just generic products for your niche. So if it's going to be eco-friendly products, just find some stock images of different items that would sell in that niche, put them on your website, make up fake prices, put a description in. You're not going to enable checkout so no one could go on and buy them from you, but you're doing this so when you contact your suppliers, you could show them your website and they could see what it will look like once their products are uploaded and, as if it was a fully functional website, because they're not going to approve just anyone that contacts them. Yeah, I'm thinking of selling these. Maybe I could, maybe I'm going to start a website. They don't want to hear that. They want you to have a website. They want it to look professional and they want to know that you're serious. So definitely build that website first. And I call them demo products, but just basically placeholders. Make it look good. And the only thing that I recommend doing at this point is not adding, a merchant account or not linking your PayPal, just so no one can check out, but just so the supplier can go to your website and click around and see the functionality. So it'll look exactly the same as before it's live.
So you have to have a certain level of confidence that the kinds of products that you're uploading to your site as demo products, you will be able to find a dropship supplier to fulfill. Or could you just, pivot? So let's say I decided to target the raw foods market. And so I have an idea of the different types of products I would like to sell. I'd want to sell high-end blenders. I'd want to sell high-end juicers, maybe some alkaline water purifiers that retail for $1,000, $2,000. All the kinds of products that someone who is really particular about, their food, where it comes from, whether it's organic and the quality of their water, what that consumer is going to care about. So I could put together a store that targets this particular target demographic, but let's say, for example, I couldn't find a single supplier that would be willing to supply any of these products. So can I just pivot that and turn it into a lighting store, for example? Or do you think that it would be highly probable that I would be able to find at least one supplier per product category?
Right, and that's why market research is so important, because if you do your market research right, then you don't have to worry about not finding suppliers. So I put more time into niche selection and into market research than into anything else I do. Creating my website, which to most people sounds like the most, daunting task, is nothing compared to niche selection and market research. So I don't just build websites hoping that maybe I could find a supplier. I spend, weeks researching different niches before I invest anything else into them. So that would be my response to that. If you do your market research right, then you will find suppliers because you already found them prior to building your website. You haven't contacted them yet, but you already have found them.
So what kind of products should a prospective or aspiring dropship marketer focus on marketing? So, I dived into your online course, which I love, by the way, and I can't wait to really dig into it some more. I think you might have a new dropshipping devotee real soon. Clearly, you don't want to spend time marketing low-end products because it's the same amount of work to build a store marketing cheaper products than high-end products. And of course, the high-end products have a much bigger profit margin. So what other considerations should an aspiring dropshipper make?
Yeah, that's my biggest as far as like having the pricing being right. And then another thing that I really look for is who the niche appeals to. Obviously, there are so many different ways to break down target markets and demographics and whatnot, but I want to have all my e-commerce businesses as automated as possible. Not just my e-commerce, but all my businesses I want as automated as possible. So you want to sell in niches that are less customer service intensive, are going to have low return rates, and that you're not going to have a million questions to try to pre-sell someone, and that you're not going to have customers calling to follow up over and over after the sale. Like the example you gave about juicers and items like that, I personally would stay away from that because I feel like any electronics kind of lead to the possibility of a higher return rate and also more questions post-sale. Because let's say someone buys something and it's not working the way they thought it would, even if it works right, maybe they don't understand how to use it. They're not going to call the supplier, they're going to call you. So I wouldn't want to sell anything that customers might have post-sale questions on. Obviously, you're always going to get some, but I try to keep, that limited as much as possible. So that's one of the big things I look into when doing my market research. And another example of this would be like apparel. I would never sell clothing online. Another example would be bedding sheets. And the reason I just put those two together is because those are very personal items, right? You might think like I'll go online and buy a shirt or buy, new sheets or something like that, or a mattress even. I wouldn't sell that either. But they're things that people, even though they don't think about it, they really do have to see them and feel them and touch them before they get them. And a new mattress comes in and maybe, it doesn't feel the way they thought it would, or the description didn't match what they were expecting. They're going to want to return it. If the sheets aren't, the same feel they had envisioned, they're going to come back to you. Same thing with clothing. If it doesn't fit right, it's going to come back. So I try to stay away from things that are personal to a customer that require that like touch. So there's a million examples of it, but basically that's one thing I always think about when I'm doing my research. Like, would a customer really want to see this, feel it, touch it before purchasing it?
So are there any niches that you would recommend off the top of your head that would have a high profit margin but low return rate?
There's a lot, but I don't share those. I have people research on their own. No, I don't do that.
All right. Okay. Like one thing that I could possibly imagine might be furniture. It's just such a hassle to return it. So... But who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Let's say you don't want to burn your precious entrepreneurial time by trying to build your own online store. Realistically, how much does it cost to build a store, and what platform should you use?
I recommend Shopify 100% now. Like I said, I had started with Yahoo stores back when I first got into this. Since then, I've tried BigCommerce, who is great too, but I had some problems with them and their customer support I didn't think was that great. I've tried like basically everyone out there. Magento is a great one, but it's really hard to customize. So what I found out of like everyone I've tried and built, big stores on, I think Shopify is by far the easiest to use. They have the best customer support. They have the best tutorials if you ever get stuck with anything. And they're so easy to modify and edit. So my advice, like, what's the cost? I would say get started with Shopify. You can get on like, I think a $29 a month plan, and they have tons of free templates, which look really good. So, it's similar with like WordPress or anything. You find a template you like, you click install, and your site looks like that right away. Then in their back end, everything is basically drag and drop. You could change all the color settings. You could upload, new image banners and whatnot. You could just change like everything from their back end, and it doesn't take long, and it doesn't even cost money. Like if you can make yourself a logo in Photoshop or Pixlr or something, and you could it doesn't cost any money, honestly, unless you want to outsource. Then you could start getting pricey. But I personally would recommend doing everything yourself the first time.
Okay.
You build a really nice looking store. Yeah.
All right. So build it and they'll come not. Once your store is up, how do you drive traffic? How do you get customers? Do you have to have a budget set aside for online advertising? And how much?
I'd recommend paid advertising because that's what makes me the most money. I really am big into Google PLAs, also, Google Shopping. So you do a search on Google for a product. That's what comes up in the top right box, the sponsored product results. It's really CPC, but it's really cheap compared to normal AdWords text ads, and they convert at a much higher rate. So that's like just an easy way to get extremely targeted traffic that converts. So I highly recommend Google PLAs. Then there's like so many other things that I do. Amazon product ads. That's actually a great place to advertise. You think if someone's on Amazon, they're looking to buy something. Amazon's a retailer, but they also have an advertising program. So if I'm selling like a computer keyboard and someone's on one of their computer keyboard pages, it'll show related items in the sponsored ad sections. So I could have a picture of a keyboard that I'm selling with a link to my store. If someone clicks it, it's cost per click, CPC. And then, they go to my site and they could buy from me. So it's another really highly converting source of traffic because you're getting buying traffic coming to your site and they're clicking on an image of your item so they know what they're going to. So I recommend that. And SEO, I've never been big into. I tell everyone never even consider like outsourcing it. I've wasted tens of thousands of dollars on SEO and I've gotten like some results. I've ranked some keywords, but they don't convert. So this is my thing about it. If you're using SEO and let's say you're going after like a niche keyword, if your niche is, eco-friendly products, and you want to rank for something generic like eco-friendly products, that traffic is going to convert so much lower than ranking for the actual product names that you're selling, for the SKU names that you're selling. Because when someone's searching for a specific product, a manufacturer, or a SKU number, they're looking to buy that. They're not just, looking to shop around and see what's out there. So I don't do any SEO anymore besides on-site SEO. All of my product pages are optimized with the supplier information. Like I said, the same things, brand name, product name, SKU number. And I take advantage of meta tags to really like stand out in the organic results. So that's what I do, and it works well. Rank for the products, not for the niche.
Okay. So how can you compete against other e-tailers who are selling the same or similar products who might have websites that have been around longer, that have more authority, more established search engine rankings, or even more advertising budget?
Yeah. Like the way I think of it, obviously there's always going to be people that are bigger than you. Like there's always going to be Amazon. There's always going to be these massive companies. You don't need all the sales to make a lot of money, especially if you're selling expensive items. You just need, a couple sales a day, a few sales a day, and it can equal a lot of money if you do it across enough stores. So the way that I rank organically, like I said, I use these meta tags, and it's amazing to see how many people don't take advantage of that. Like when I look through, like so many of my products rank in the top 5, top 3, even like 1 or 2 for a lot of products. And I don't do anything, like I said, off site. I optimize my meta tags and Google picks that up. So organically, I rank very well. As far as, like paid campaigns, I would never use AdWords traditionally anymore. When I first started, I could, but most of my niches, the costs were like 1/10 of the price they are now per click. So that's just like out of the question. I can't have it be profitable anymore. But Google Shopping is still very cheap and it converts. So yeah, you're not trying to like take down. This is what I would say. At least I'm not. When I build a new e-commerce store, I'm not trying to take down, and put everyone out of business. Not like I'm just trying to take a piece of the action. And if you sell expensive products and you do your market research right, get into niches that sell well, then it equals a lot of money.
Okay, so, but I mean, let's say, you've got these products and, you're drop shipping them, and so you've got like a wholesaler price, and, other e-tailers are selling it at the same wholesaler price. So, you're offering the same product at the same price point. What would entice the customer to buy from you and not from an Amazon.com?
Yeah, I do some things like I personalize my websites a lot. Like my About Us pages aren't, like Amazon's. Like we're a corporate, company with I don't know how many thousands of employees, and it's very like it's more of a personal experience. I also do some certain things like marketing gimmicks, I guess, to kind of get customers to purchase sooner rather than later. But when you build a niche site as your own company, you can really brand it any way you want to. So the customer gets a different experience than if they're on one of these just giant retailers. And like I said, like they do get business. It's not going to be $1 billion company if you build a couple websites, but if you build it right, if you personalize it to yourself and kind of give the customer a unique experience, that's what I would say is big. Give them a unique experience on your site, then it will convert into sales.
Should every e-commerce store have a content marketing strategy, such as a blog, for example?
Like, I don't like to tell people exactly what to do because there's a million ways to do things right and wrong. So I personally don't use blogs on my websites, my e-commerce stores. But then to give you an example, my sister, right, she just went through my e-commerce course like a year ago, and she's passionate about her niche. So she put up a blog, and for her, it's doing really well. So obviously, it can work if you're passionate about it. If the content's good, it could bring in more traffic, it could bring in more sales. So should it be necessary? If you want to do it, it's personally something that I don't do, but I know it works also. So that's really something that you'd have to think about, whether you want to outsource it or if you're passionate enough to write your own topics and create the blog yourself.
So are there any pitfalls or traps that aspiring dropshippers need to be aware of before entering the dropshipping industry?
Yeah, definitely. One thing that people do that, like I mentioned, that you should never search for your niche plus drop shippers and apply for those companies. That's the biggest mistake most people make. They find the people who advertise themselves as dropship suppliers and get themselves in a situation where they can't make any money. Another thing to really look out for is if you get approved for a supplier in your niche that sells 800 products, and they send you a CSV, which is how much of them do it. Most of them do it, which is your, price list. It's an Excel. It opens in Excel, and it'll have the product name, link to the product images, your price, the map price, which is what you should sell it for, a product description. It has all that information. Some people just get that and just upload it to their website without actually reviewing any of the information. It's important to always double check your pricing, to triple check your pricing before you list anything. You don't want to put up items that you're really not making that much money on, and not even know. Some people just keep uploading. Yeah, you should have a lot of products, but make sure your margins are right before you start taking orders. Because a lot of people get into it and start selling to try to compete with the bottom of the barrel sellers and end up making 5% margins when there's really a lot more money to be made. So that's a big thing I would say. Triple check all your profit margins before you start taking any orders.
What's the biggest mistake you made in your entrepreneurial journey that you would do differently if you had the chance?
It's not even related to online. So I was making a lot of money from early on. I did well, right away when I switched to the niche with really expensive products. And I never really saw online as a real way to make money. I don't know. I was making all my money, but I was kind of scared. I was 21, 22 years old. And I'm is this going to keep going on? What should I do? So I took a lot of money that I had made from my e-commerce stores and I rolled it into an offline business. And I had 4 business partners in it, and we put up a lot of cash. And within a few months, I realized, what am I doing? It was a marketing company that we installed digital signage displays in high traffic locations around New York, and we sold advertising space on them. So we had a sales guy, we had the guy that went and installed the locations, we had me that handled the technical back stuff on the server to get the ads out to the screens. And I was working so hard, and I had put up so much cash to make this small amount of money. And I was what am I doing? I'm running these e-commerce stores that are making me all of my income, or 90% of my income, that I'm managing in 2 hours a day. And I put up all this money now, and I'm committed to this business. What am I doing? So that was a big mistake. We ended up, none of us really got that much into it. So we ended up selling it within a year, which was good. I got my money back, I got my money out of it. But I basically wasted a year trying to build a business that I had no interest in, just because at that point I still thought offline was real. I thought that was the real business plan. But that was I'm happy I did it. I had my little offline business taste on a bigger scale than my route. It was a big deal, but I'm just happy I got out of it without losing everything. And since then it's been e-commerce only and online only, and I haven't looked back. No more offline for me.
Great. Yeah. So tell me, is this business your life purpose? If not, what is?
I don't know. I don't know what my life purpose is. I love my business. I love networking. I really love just traveling right now and just meeting really cool entrepreneurs from all over the world. That's what makes me happy now. There's such good groups of people that doing exactly what I'm doing and what you're doing all over the place. And right now, that's my purpose. That's what makes me happy. Traveling around, networking, hearing cool stories, sharing mine. That's what I like right now. That's what makes me happy.
Okay, great. So we're about at the end of this interview. How can we best stay in touch with you, Anton?
I have a blog, my business travel blog, createtravelplay.com.
Okay, so
there.
People can message you through this website. Okay, yep. Do you have a Twitter account profile that you want to share with us, or is that pretty much it?
I barely use it. I haven't, but yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, folks, for listening to the Entrepreneurs for Change podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us reach more people with inspiring stories like this one by giving us a 5-star rating in iTunes. If this podcast inspires you to join the movement of change-making entrepreneurs, we'd love to give you a jumpstart with our free Business Changemakers Toolkit, which you can download at www.entrepreneursforachange.com/join. If you have a changemaker in mind you'd love for us to interview, go to entrepreneursforachange.com/suggest and tell us who and why. Finally, feel free to stop by facebook.com/entrepreneursforachange to share your thoughts and say hello.